Since late 2014, libertarians from Canada, United States, Sweden, New Zealand, and many other corners of the world have been moving to Acapulco, a coastal city once vacationed as the beachfront of Hollywood, now regarded as the fourth most dangerous in the world. Why would they leave their home countries for more than a vacation and choose Acapulco of all the natural exotic beauty that Mexico has to offer? Why leave the safety and stability of the first world and expatriate to the third? Why now?
My name is Michael Nimitz.
Hey, I'm Erica.
Hello, I'm Juan Galt.
My name's Dave Robinson. I do computer programming, kind of.
I'm Nathan Freeman.
Oh, and I'm Lisa Freeman. Yeah. And did you hear we're married?
I had thoughts of wanting to leave the U.S. For a while, just thoughts. And I kind of at the last second decided to go to Anarchapulco in 2015.
Anarchapulco.
Anarchapulco.
Anarchapulco happened.
Anything you want, you can have it, no doubt. Me, I want to make like birds and fly south. I want a little spot with a teepee on the beach, somewhere I can pick mangoes off the trees, seaside at sunset doing Tai Chi, then preparing dinner with some fly mamacitas. Family gathered by the fireside, smiling all riding on the highest vibe. We'll be singing songs in the starlight, and my warriors, we be ready all night. I'll be ready by the dark of the daylight, keeping on my shady by the wayside. And if anybody wanna come rumble, I'll be right at home in the jungle.
Like a lot of us down here, it was Jeff Bewrick putting the word out and saying, hey, this is an opportunity, an interesting opportunity for that community.
And I went to Anarchapulco and had a great time and loved it. And I think that's what really planted the seed, the idea in my head. And from there, it just, once that seed was planted, I kept thinking about it more and more and more, and the thought grew of leaving. And I had an actual practical endpoint for departing, because, I mean, before that, where am I going to go? I don't know anybody anywhere. I don't know what I'm going to do. I get there, and it's a different language. I'm going to be, lost, basically. But for Acapulco, I've got a network of people on the ground of like mind that I'll be able to meet with, and that'll be able to help me sort of settle in and figure out what the hell's going on in this new place.
Actually, before we came here, probably a year before we came to conference, I just said, when shit gets real, we need to get in our car and drive. Like, where can we go that can get us as quickly out of the U.S. when stuff gets really unbearable? And one thing was Canada or Mexico, and we both were like, not Canada. No way we were doing Canada.
Not Canada.
But Mexico was out of the U.S.
We had lived abroad before. When we first got married, we lived for 2 years in South Africa. And one of the things we learned from that experience was that living far away from anyone you know, not a good idea.
Nobody visits you.
We were really isolated. Yeah, we never had any visitors or anything, so it was a difficult time.
I lived in Indiana, I lived in Texas, I lived in Florida. I lived in Miami, Florida. I've lived in Pensacola, Florida. I've lived in Los Angeles, in the Valley, in California. I've lived in Germany, near Frankfurt. And then I've visited a lot of places, South Africa, Colombia, Chile, Australia, New Zealand. And even though there was a lot of interesting places that had some opportunities, there was just not a group of people that followed the same philosophy that I did. And so it was kind of a lonely feeling. And what I concluded was I had to go back to the United States because there just wasn't anywhere else that had like-minded people.
We had our friends in Cozumel, 2 friends there, and then, we already knew y'all here, so we haven't really had to deal with what would it feel like to be totally alone in Mexico.
Yeah, I think knowing someone where you're going to land is really imperative. They can help get you situated and figure out the town and tell you places, just really share that knowledge they have. And so that's definitely here in Acapulco. There's plenty of people that can help out with that now, and you know, other places.
And so at Anarchapulco, I saw a group of very intelligent, investigating, critically thinking people who were, you know, pressing into those same concerns in a way that I hadn't seen done before.
So I think that was the final, like, well, I've got that now, and there's really nothing stopping me. And I'm 29, why the hell not? Why not move to another country? And I don't want to live in the same place for my entire life, you know?
So I'm still in the midst of like a great, I'm recovering from a great disillusionment. I had never really, until recently, consciously considered my relationship with this entity known as government. Small g, big G, whatever. I, like a lot of people, assumed it to be benevolent. I thought it was benign. I didn't even object necessarily to the way it's, you know, kind of, we have these parental projections and act like it's a mom or a dad that will guide us and nurture us and care for us. And that is all bullshit. So when I woke up to the exploitive nature, the deceptive, corrupting, corrosive nature of what government really is, I mean, it was, you know, I was shell-shocked. It's like walking on a landmine. And so this isn't the kind of information that I could come into and then just go back to sleep. You know, it is, when that alarm rings, you are up. So that alarm rang.
Well, you know, around 2008, I got involved in the Ron Paul thing, and we got to the point that we understood that, you know, it wasn't going to happen. Ron Paul wasn't going to become president. We weren't going to change the world. And so I became very disenchanted with the idea that the United States was the free country that I thought it was. And so I started thinking about, where am I going to go?
It's a lot of different things. The police state, for sure. The growing, you know, I'm real in tune with what's going on with the police state. My Facebook feed is just one horrendous cop story after another. And it seemed to me that the trajectory that was taking place in the United States was growing police statism, total abuse of rights with no accountability whatsoever. So that really pisses me off, and I just couldn't live there anymore.
I'm sick of people being victimized by criminal cops, psychopathic predators terrorizing neighborhood blocks, equipped with pepper spray, mace, cuffs, tasers, and glocks. They like serial killers acting out subliminal thoughts. Forget what you taught, these cops have got a license to kill. Witness intimidation means that they can use it at will. Code of silence means that the pigs will never let out a squeal. And if they go to court, they know the judge will make them a deal. For real, that's why they stopping me, locking me up and stopping me, confiscating my property, talking in my demography, making the poor commodities, profiting off of poverty, enforcing policies, supporting prison economies. Yeah, no one makes money when the violence stops. Hating brutality's the way to make a criminal crop. Blood in the gutters, how the rich butter they bread at the top. And that's why this is what happens when you call the cops.
Come on, this is what happens when you call the cops. You get your rights violated or you all get shot.
Things like Homan Square in Chicago, you heard of that? They're illegally detaining people completely outside of any. It's not even like taking them to the jail illegally. They're taking them to a facility where nobody knows where the hell they are. It's like more or less equal to a CIA black site. And some have claimed to have abuse at that center, and I think there's been thousands of people that have been taken there. And so, again, it goes in with the police state. It's that, and on top of all the police state stuff, it's the surveillance. I mean, I'm sure I'm being surveilled on the internet no matter what I do. But in the United States, I felt like no matter what I was doing, I was being watched. And I didn't feel any sense of privacy. And I felt a SWAT team could bust down my door for no reason, even though I wasn't doing anything illegal. The SWAT team could bust down my door for no reason any time, so I didn't feel secure at all. I just felt basically paranoid and insecure. And so much so, I mean, I love my friends and family, and I miss them a lot. But I just couldn't live there anymore. It was driving me crazy.
For the longest time, when I understood exactly, you know, that yes, taxation is theft, when I got that, and then still was complicit with it, like like that was not okay with me. And I know that there are a lot of other people who, first of all, I don't think anyone enjoys taxes, but even those, you know, and then some might feel like that you know, there's a deception that it's dutiful, it's civic. You know, it's decent, it's moral. That is all untrue. And it's been so widely accepted, like the air that we breathe, that's how come it's so diabolical. That's why it's so dangerous, because something perverse and dishonest has been accepted as a national badge of honor. So we have it really, really twisted. It's inverted. Up is down. And so then when you understand that, it's huge. So what was presented to you as good, you now understand is actually to your destruction. What do you do with information like that? How do you process that? And then how do you figure out, you know, like a sane and healthy and happy life? Okay, you know, I mean, so those are the questions that I'm asking. And when I first came into the unacceptability of the tax situation, of being stolen from, as hard as I work, I'm being stolen from, and then the money that's being stolen from me is being spent in ways that I vehemently object to. I mean, it's like you know, like the one slap wasn't enough. Let's do it twice. I'm gonna steal from you and kill people with it, and keep you away from the plant that is medicinal to you. I mean, you know, it's like, how much can a person take? And I just don't agree with that kind of victimhood. And so, you know what? Home made me feel like a victim. It made me feel like I felt separated from my freedom, from my sovereignty, just from this very simple life that I'm wanting to have, you know. So I was like, it just didn't feel like a hospitable place to call home. So home lost its sweetness.
It's bureaucracy.
Yeah.
I mean, in law enforcement.
Yeah.
You know, you never know when you're going to get a letter from the IRS, or when you're going to get a letter from some local school board, or when a cop's going to pull you over, or a neighbor's going to complain about something.
Yeah. These kids are home all day long. Shouldn't they be in school? Kind of thing. And I've had friends that have had that happen.
And it's just nerve-wracking. I mean, it's like you feel constantly threatened, because you know that at any time guys with guns can just show up and do whatever they want, and there's nothing you can do about it.
When you make your mind up to do something and it's a serious life or death, I mean, we didn't have police at our door with guns, but that day was in our future. And with having children and being unschooled parents, we weren't following the norm anyway. So as Meta was getting older, because she's 6, there was going to be a time where someone was going to ask questions why she wasn't in school. And there's documented proof that the government likes to come in and take people's kids. They don't follow the rules. And this mommy was not going to let that happen. There was no way. So you do what you have to do to save your family. There's no going back. Yeah. So you shouldn't have woken me up.
Yeah, apparently.
Yep.
Once I decided I was going to do it, I waited actually until I had a solid plan in place. Part of that was actually because, you and I lived together for a while. Part of that was me reaching out to you and saying, hey, can you help me find a place? And you were like, yeah, I'm gonna have a free spot here soon. So that was part of the puzzle. A place to live was fit. So once I had all the puzzle pieces put together, I I just was like, hey, so you guys know, and I had talked about it, so they probably saw it coming. But I was like, all right, I'm moving to Acapulco. I just told them straight up, and they were all like supportive. My friends too. I didn't try to get anybody to come with me, just because they all had their own thing going on. But this is like, I'm moving. They were like, well, shit, we'll miss you, but all right, do what you got to do.
The family. My family.
Well, Nick and Alicia were easy, but
Yeah.
My mother, not so easy. My mother and my stepfather lived probably, 200 yards away from us.
Yeah.
And they had moved from Florida to live near us because they wanted to be close with our kids. And so when we told them that we were serious about moving, particularly my mother was extremely upset because she didn't think that she wanted to move with us, and she felt like we were taking them away. So what I did was, when I told her, I also bought them plane tickets at the same time to come with us so that they could come and visit for a while. They weren't really sure about Mexico. The last time either of them had been in Mexico was probably 15 years prior. And so particularly my mom was pretty skeptical as to whether or not it would be nice. But I think once they got here and once they saw Acapulco and they saw the friends we had here and they saw like how we would be living, it took a big jump in their minds as to what we could do. So they came and visited for 2 weeks and went back and decided to do the same thing that we did. And they sold everything they owned and got on a plane and came down here.
Yeah.
So they've retired to Acapulco.
I think the kids, they had a lot of friends too at home, and we had to say goodbye to a lot of places and friends that we would go to. I think that was kind of probably the hardest part. Actually, not saying goodbye to like immediate family was fine. It was like
Yeah, a lot of the family wasn't a big deal.
But it was friends that have similar philosophies with peaceful parenting and unschooling, and their kids have made a connection with our kids. And we used to do story time every Thursday, and it became really real when I was sitting at the library going, this is the last time we're going to be here. It was like, is this really happening? Yeah, this is happening.
But we have new traditions now. So.
Yeah, you do other stuff. It's just, it is just like in The Matrix when Neo was getting unplugged. It was just another being unplugged. It was just another level. And it was scary at one point and became very freeing, very, very enlightening too, very light feeling.
Probably anyone who's honestly tried to weave and integrate ideas of liberty and anarchy and sovereignty and freedom into their life, this will play out. There will be ripples in your relationships. So, it's going to get messy. And I think that's to be expected. Because, even though freedom is our natural innate right, it is automatic, like the engineering to behave as an unfree person starts right away. So this is a disruptive thing to happen when somebody wants to wake up from, from the lie and the deception, and it can be very threatening. So if you now understand the treachery of government, and when you understand the inappropriate reach and touch of state, it is a violation all day long from start to finish. When you realize that, then, just know and understand it's going to have impact on the people that you love, because what are they going to do now with this fallout? And so I'm throwing out all these questions because this is what's keeping me up at night, and and I just would think that I want to encourage myself and anyone watching this that, in your pursuit for freedom and liberty, you will be reconnected to your ability, to soar. You will be reconnected to your greatness, and you're also going to encounter aftermath from those who aren't ready for flight or whatever. Yeah, so relationships, I trust in, ultimately, I know that love is gonna, catch all of us wherever we end up. But yeah, there's hard choices to be made, and freedom and liberty is not for faint-hearted. It's hard work.
So they did the same thing we did. They sold everything they owned and moved. And so each of us had a great purge of selling all of our stuff. We had estate sales and just got rid of all the things that we owned.
Oh, so good.
Oh God, we were so scared. It was like, wow, I can't believe I'm doing this.
But looking back, all of the stuff that we had accumulated were just leashes to tie us to the States. And once we cut all those leashes, we were free.
Because the only stuff we wanted to take with us was stuff we could actually fit in the car.
Yep.
So if you think about the notion of moving, like, if you're in the U.S. or probably in Canada, I don't know if it's like this in Europe, but you think about the idea of, well, I have to move out of this house and into that house. It's like, I got to get all my stuff out of this house and into that house. Well, most places you get here in Acapulco are furnished.
Yep.
So you don't have to move all that much stuff from one house to the other. So we knew we didn't need to bring things like furniture, and so we didn't. We just bought the things that were really important to us, things of sentimental value, things high value stuff like electronics, things I needed for work. The kids brought their favorite toys, and everything else we sold.
Yep. Cars, everything.
Put a fair amount of money in our pockets too. It made the move a lot easier to have liquidated all that, and so that worked out rather nicely.
The station appears behind a cloud of dust, and he pulls up off the bus. Primera Plus, in his hands a well-worn copy of Henry Hazlitt, in his backpack a brick called Human Action. He was a kid with small pay and big dreams, a plan to produce something the world had never seen, a peaceful planet envisioned in his epiphany. Then he saw Atlas shrugging in his periphery, so one day he made a little choice, loaded up his wallet with a few bitcoins, bought a one-way ticket, went to his job and quit it, enumerated to the boss every orifice he could stick it, slipped over the border without producing a passport, bribing the guards, his heart beating and fast forward, la magia en el aire como de brujos, así es la vida en Acapulco.
Originally I was planning on driving down by myself, but I think the thought of going to Mexico freaked my mom out so bad. She was like, demanded that my dad ride with me. He goes, my job is to get you down here in one piece. So my dad came with me, which I loved. It was a great experience for me and him to share. But yeah, I was like, I was planning on leaving real early in the morning one day, but of course I put the entire, everything I needed to do to prepare to move to a different country, I packed that into 3 days, because I was kept just pushing it off another day until it was fucking crunch time. And for that 3 days, it was the most insane 3 days of my life. I was scrambling all over the place, running around. It was nuts, and I was exhausted. But then once it finally became time that we could leave, it was the nighttime of that day that we were planning on leaving in the early morning. I was like, fuck it, let's just take off. I don't care how tired I am. I just want to go. And so I took off. It was maybe 10 or 11. Not more than a half an hour on I-70. I can't remember what interstate it was. There was this horrible car accident. So we're at this parking lot. This parking lot of cars that stretches forever. And some car had pulled up on the wrong side, and there was a head-on collision. So it was our trip was already all messed up. But we ended up being able to drive across the grass on the median and go the other direction. We took a detour and we kept going. And I swear to God, it poured rain until we hit, might have been until we hit Texas. So it was torrential downpour the whole freaking time we're driving.
Just huge, black, full horizon storm clouds. And so we're driving as we're getting closer and closer to the border. The rain is just pouring down. There's lightning flashes everywhere. It was like driving into Mordor.
It was the last-ditch effort of the U.S. trying to hold on to us.
Yeah, let's make it so bad they can't actually cross up.
The car was actually doing this on the road, I remember.
Yeah, the wind was so bad.
And of course, I'm really nervous because I have all my lively possessions in this car. My entire life is in this car. you know, all my musical equipment, anything. My computer stuff, just everything that was important to me was in this car. Dog, yeah, of course, Hoyt. Was taking up a bunch of space and smelling up the car. Just sleeping in the back, didn't give a shit. Yeah, I mean, the whole drive down through the U.S., I'm like so nervous because I'm like, good God, Lord, please just let me get out of this damn country without getting pulled over by a fucking cop. That's all I'm thinking about. Put all my shit in here. I just don't want anything wrong. That's what I'm trying to escape. So I don't want to run into that as I'm trying to leave, you know. So I'm like driving 5 over. I'm like half focused on the speedometer, making sure I don't go 5 over, you know, get pulled over by some cop. And I'm like clenching the steering wheel. I'm like just nervous, basically, that something's going to fuck up my ability to get out of this country.
So worry about police officers on the highway.
Yeah.
And actually, we did have an exchange with somebody for the Jade Helm.
No, that wasn't what that was for.
That
It felt like it was. That's what.
It wasn't Jade
No,
Helm?
that guy was
the homeless guy.
There was an undercover cop pretending to be a homeless guy walking around
Doing the cell
with a
phone.
sign
Oh.
that said, "Need money for beer? Why lie?" And it was very obvious that this guy was not homeless because he had like brand new cargo pants on and like a really nice hat. And we learned later that this is a police tactic to get pictures of people who take pictures of him on their cell phones while they're in their car to share on social media or whatever, and then they ticket those people.
How ridiculous is that? Get me out of a country that spends that much time to do that. That's just ridiculous.
That's just
That is ridiculous.
petty and vile and just sheer thieving.
Yeah.
So it was pretty eerie, especially when you know that your mission is to get out of the country.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, some UC cop takes a picture of the back of your car, and you're like, "Why did he just do that?
Mm-hmm.
Does he know?"
And we were in Texas. We were in Texas too. So we were 3 days into it. So we were on the last day or so.
So driving out there, it's like we left before dawn had broken. We slept for like 4 hours after driving all that way. Left before dawn had broken, and like the moon was suspended right above like the direction we were driving in. So it was just, like, it was really cool. It's like day hadn't broken yet. You know, you're driving like in this Texas, you know, desert land. There's nothing around, and every town you come up on, you're like, oh shit, is this it? Is this it? Are we about to cross? But like, no, just another barren town. And keep going, and finally, I could like. It's really crazy because you have how everything's set up here, small town America, and then you can see over and it's like, oh, that's definitely Mexico. Like it just looks completely different. Just right along this border. It's weird.
We finally get to the border, and this is after months of planning and 2.5 days of driving, and we're like, okay, do we have the car registration? Yeah, check. Do we have the proof of insurance? Yeah, check. Do we have everybody's passports? Yep, they're all here, check. Okay, do we have this thing? Do we have that thing? All the stuff we need to have. Yep. Okay, we're ready to cross the border. And we pull up to the Mexico side, and the car in front of us just went. Nothing happened. They just didn't even pause. They just drove through. And so we thought, well, maybe we'll just get to drive through. And so we try to stick with him, but this guy in a border guard uniform walks over and he waves at us. All right, so we stop. I roll down the window, and he says, "Where are you coming from?" And I looked at him, because that seemed like a weird question, and I leaned out the window and went, "Texas."
That way? I mean, like, what did you say?
And he kind of rolled his eyes, and then he started walking towards the back of the car. And now I felt like I gave the wrong answer. And I'm like, oh, you mean originally, Georgia, because he's going to look at the license plate. Georgia, we came from Georgia. He's like, okay.
Smart ass.
So where are you going? And we said, we're going to Acapulco for a family vacation. And so he leans in the car a little bit. He shines his light in the car. He sees it's packed full of stuff, but he sees it's Lisa and I, and the kids are in the back, and they're there playing their games with iPads or whatever. And he's like, okay, have a nice time. And we just drove away. Like, that was it. That was the border. He didn't ask for passports. He didn't ask for proof of registration. He didn't ask for any of the official documentation we were supposed to have. He just, wait, okay, have a great vacation.
And then we crossed with no problems. I was all nervous about Hoyt. Like, are they going to ask all these questions? Are they say, where are your papers, all this stuff? They were just like, ask us, like, do you have booze on you, asked me a couple other random questions, and then said, "See ya, have fun."
And we were like, but
we had all this stuff ready.
We were told we have to have all this stuff. And it's horseshit.
Yeah. So
At least in
that's
our
not to say
experience.
don't have the stuff. I mean, if you want to make that same trip, if you don't have the stuff, that's probably going to be a problem, or it may be a problem. And if it's a problem at all, it'll probably be a big problem.
But once I finally got into Mexico, it was a relief. And we started driving, but we were still in a very populated area initially. So it didn't fully hit me yet, like that I was in Mexico. I hit a speed bump going pretty fast. That fucked me up. All my shit went flying all over the place. I'm sure Hoyt was like, "What the hell was that?" I was going 70, but I slammed on the brakes before I hit it. So I was probably going like 40 or something. But it was one of those big ones, and like we had to stop for an hour just to reassemble everything. But once I finally hit a highway that was like desolate, there's nothing around. I mean, we're driving on this thing. There's no cars anywhere to be found. It's a nice, well-paved road, but it's like, not desert, but like vegetation going forever this way, and like big mountains in the distance. Once I finally hit that, like the amount of relief that I was overwhelmed with, it was like a religious experience. It's the only way I can describe it. I just started laughing. My dad's like, "What's so funny?" I'm like, because like nobody can fuck with me out here. I finally feel completely private. I feel like I'm not going to get pulled over. I don't have to clench the steering wheel. I don't have to worry about my speed. I can just relax, sit back, and cruise. And that's what it felt like for the rest of the drive. I would drive through Mexico again in a heartbeat. It was an amazing experience. I loved it, every second of it. I drove the whole way once we got into Mexico because I didn't want to let my dad have any drive time because I was having so much time driving, so much fun driving.
Well, there was one good one. We were driving down one of the highways on the way south between Texas and Mexico City. And there was a group of federales, of Mexican police, and they had like this big portable awning set up on the side of the road, and there were a bunch of them sitting up there. And the traffic was a little bit slow pulling past them, and so we're driving by it, not fast speed, but it's not too slow. And Lisa's driving, and she glances over at one of these guys, and he sort of he goes like this at her. And I said, "Honey, just keep driving, just keep going." And so because he's just sitting there. He's sitting there.
In a plastic chair.
And he goes like this.
In a plastic chair.
And so she just keeps driving, drives right by the guy, and he sort of looks, and he was like this, and then he was like, "I'm not getting out of the chair."
It's too hot.
So that was pretty comical. We were like, wait a minute, that guy didn't even get out of the... It's not that they're not chasing us. He didn't even get out of the chair.
Yeah.
Because he was just trying to trick us into pulling over, and then he could tell us whatever he wanted.
Then he would,
but if we didn't pull over, then it was just like, oh well, I guess I didn't intimidate them.
So key to this is pretend to be a tourist forever. What? I thought you were waving at me. Oh, you need me to pull over? I'm going to keep waving. Just, you're a tourist. Just play it up.
I don't admit you live here.
Yeah, don't admit you live here. Yeah.
Oh, shit.
We just
told everybody.
Dun, dun, dun.
Hey, thank you for watching. Let us know what you think. It was a great pleasure to doing all this interviews and getting to know people down here and working on this documentary and producing the whole thing. So very curious what you think about it. Let us know what kind of questions you're interested in me answering, or us answering rather. And to that specific end, we're going to have a Google Hangouts on June the 25th with almost everybody or a bunch of people that are hanging out down here, and just to talk about our experiences in Mexico and in Acapulco and answer people's questions about whatever specifics you're curious about beyond what we talk about in this documentary. So definitely check it out. We're going to put that down here when it's ready. If you'd like to support my work directly and freedomhacker.tv directly, you're absolutely welcome to donate. Go to freedomhacker.tv/donate, or you can also check out my workshop at freedomhacker.tv/save. It's a 1 to 2 hour workshop depending on sort of how you approach it. That is meant to help you become more censorship resistant online, protect your privacy, protect your identity, protect your online assets and general online security, drastically increase your security and privacy and ease of use and experience online with very easy to use technologies. Okay, this is now becoming possible. Privacy is not dead, and you can take control instead of begging for your freedom of speech and your privacy online. Okay, so check out that workshop. You can only buy with Bitcoin. So there's all you need to know to get Bitcoin in 3 minutes is in this link below. Okay, thanks for being awesome. You have a wonderful day. Leave comments below, like it if you like it, dislike it, all that stuff, subscribe, and we do have a newsletter so that you can get our content directly, and we can bypass this centralized media hubs that are getting censored so often lately. All right, thanks. Peace out.
I'm sailing in on a sloop on the Pacific wind, waiting to start my life again. Well, I don't have much, y pues yo no sé mucho, pero yo sé que si voy yendo a Acapulco. I know I'm heading down to Acapulco. I know I'm heading down to Acapulco with the long white sands and the shaved ice stands. Yeah, I gotta head down to Acapulco. Used to write assembly on a Commodore with cassette. Now it controls 1,000 square clicks of wireless net. An experienced vet who only hires the best. That's why they write his company 5-figure checks. In his heart, nothing but compassion and respect. But the bloke has a basement with more heavy weaponry than David Koresh. I guess you could say he's obsessed with keeping his family safe from external threats. But there's one threat which concerns him more than the next. Every history text he reads retraces the steps of Stalin's slaughter of ex-million Soviets. And in his nightmares, all he sees are black vests. But his friends all tell him that could never happen here. But the more research he does, the more the facts are clear. So he skips his last tax payment on a loophole and tells his kids to pack for Acapulco. I'm sailing in on a sloop on the Pacific wind, waiting to start my life again. Well, I don't have much, y pues yo no sé mucho, pero yo sé que si voy yendo a Acapulco. I know I'm headed down to Acapulco. I know I'm headed down to Acapulco with the long white sands and the Liberty Reds. Yeah, I gotta head down to Acapulco. Empire at peak. Borders say the limit is full. You can see men get rich by political pull. 15-year-old adults getting woke still in school, questioning the concept of legitimate rule. The revolution will be podcast. The whole world is listening. Either read the writing on the wall or you're illiterate. Study to your benefit, ignore to your detriment. Sent to work in Auschwitz, sent to die in the Messerschmitt. Acapulco is more like a concept written in the stars, but they haven't quite crossed yet. Picture crystal sands, a place it's warm, where Mother Nature gives you the space to transform. When the people are decent, you find a little freedom. We can make this a reality if you believe it, but I think I know a place you can go, jump on a plane and head straight to Acapulco. I'm sailing in on a sloop on the Pacific wind, waiting to start my life again. Well, I don't have much, y pues yo no sé mucho, pero yo sé que si voy yendo a Acapulco. I know I'm heading down to Acapulco. I know I'm heading down to Acapulco with the long white sands and the shaved ice stands. I gotta head down to Acapulco. I'm sailing in on a sloop on the Pacific wind, waiting to start my life again. Well, I don't have much, y pues yo no sé mucho, pero yo sé que si voy yendo a Acapulco. I know I'm headed down to Acapulco. I know I'm headed down to Acapulco with the long white sands where I might have a chance. Yeah, I'm gonna head down to Acapulco.
Hello.